whenever we went to the Philippines and we got stuck in Coron on the island, like there's a lot of uncertainty with that. And we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know how we were going to get to our next destination. Where were we going to sleep for the night? Like nothing. And that was really anxious.
What actually happened? Like, what's the story?
Yeah. So backstory. We went to the Philippines for our honeymoon and it was great. Part of that trip was we went to an island called Coron Island and we spent a week there. It was wonderful. Highly recommend. And then on the way out of the island, our flight got delayed and then got canceled. And it was apparently the last flight out. And it was just chaos. And there was a lot of miscommunication throughout the whole process. And so we kind of just had to like stagger our way through it and kind of just go with the flow and figure it out as we went. And initially, they weren't able to really tell us much in terms of like, initially they made it sound like we were going to have another flight that was going to come for us. And then next thing we know, it was like, no, there's no more flights. You guys have to go to this lounge area and wait to hear additional information on like, where you can stay for the night, because now everyone who was on that flight is now stuck on the island, So then we go to the lounge area. They still don't like formally announce where we're going to be going for the night. Like what's the lodging situation. And then just word of mouth, another passenger, I don't know how they found out, but they were like, oh yeah, we're going to this hotel. And I forgot the name of it already, but we're going to this hotel. They're going to be taking us there. And we're like, okay, cool. So we have lodging. Apparently that's cool. And then throughout the rest of the journey, then we're waiting to get picked up. They told us that, they were going to pick us up in like a bus or something like that to take us to this hotel. And we're waiting and like nothing's happening. And then again, kind of word of mouth, all of a sudden, one of the passengers happens to go outside for a second, step out, and they're like, oh, there's some vans out there. And we're like, oh, are those our vans? But like, again, like the airline company didn't tell us anything. So then we kind of like put the pieces together and we're like, oh, okay, these vans apparently are starting to take people to the hotel. So then we just jump in a van and they took us to the hotel for the night. And they provided us with food at the hotel and everything. I mean, everything worked out, but it was just very, like it could have been a very anxious and stressful situation. And yeah, like I was just more so confused, I feel like, throughout the whole experience.
No, it was an anxious situation.
Yeah, it was.
They're leading us to random spots in this tiny airport. There's no more flights out. There's other people freaking, they have to go to Bali. They have to go to this place. They have to go to that place. And they're like, yelling at the people. And you're just trying to bring and hold the peace. And people are trying to cut in line. People are trying to like push you around. And it's like, it's hard to hold your peace in there, but we know we have to do it because these poor people are just the messengers. And no one, like there's one side of the spectrum where everybody is freaking out and no empathy. And there's our side of the spectrum, which is just like, yo, you guys got to calm down. It's going to be fine. Well, that we were speaking from a godly perspective, just like, yo, like, kind of just try to trust them. It's, they're strangers, but, at least try. They're just the messenger. They don't have any authority over our airplane getting canceled and then us having to do whatever until tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's easier said than done if you have a full itinerary going to Bali after Coron Island and you're trying to travel to XYZ.
Yeah, like place. A lot of other people, they had like other flights that they were going to be missing, like connection flights and things like that. I mean, I will say, thankfully for us, we didn't really, yes, we had plans after that. We had another leg of the trip that we were going to be doing still in the Philippines, but on a different island in the Philippines. And, that got delayed by a day or so because of this whole ordeal. But I mean, really, in that situation, I remember, for me at least, like, yes, I was anxious at times and like worried and like, what's going to happen next? Like, are we going to have this? Are we going to have that? But on the same token, throughout it, I remember just kind of within myself knowing that like God's got this. Like, everything happens for a reason. We're not going to just be stranded on the side of a road on a random island. Like, it'll be fine. We just got to kind of go with the flow and just, try our best to remain calm. Because, yeah, it was chaos. Everyone around us was like, you can feel the anxiety with the other people because they were like expressing it outwardly, versus I feel like you and I were more so anxious, maybe more so within, but also trying to just trust the process.
Well, we had experience to this point. The backstory to the backstory is we already had so much travel right before this trip, and the previous trip for your mom's 50th was, we had a delayed flight, or we were expecting a delayed flight. We took it into our own hands to try to change our flights, which we did, and without trusting that process, we witnessed God's work. It like just I don't know how to say, like, we witnessed us walking away from God for a second, and we're seeing God's plan work. AKA, we saw our first flight that we transferred off of leave, and then we were stuck on this second flight that ended up getting delayed till the next morning, and now we suffer the consequences of staying overnight. But we saw our plane leave, and we were trying to take it into our own hands to say, we got this. We don't need you, God. Like, we weren't praying in that moment. We weren't praying for the best next step. And in Corona, we could have took the next step to pray on it even more, but we didn't. We just knew in that whole circumstance, hey, God's got this. You guys are freaking out. Whatever. We're going to hold our peace. And we know how this works. If we go, like, I was looking up other flights already.
I was going to say, momentarily, you did kind of look at the other flights. So, like, I guess what stopped you from continuing to try to pursue that?
No, it was just way too complicated and way too expensive. It was stupid. But yeah, anyways, it's hard in the moment when you have canceled flight and you're trying to get to this place or wherever, and it's hard to like trust that, God's got this, because there's many other itineraries where I took it in my own hands and it worked out in my secular life. But
yeah, but what about the amount of stress that it caused when you did try to put it into your own hands?
Oh, of course. It's a whole rabbit hole.
To try to make it work. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like, because I know a lot of people, including myself, right? Like, that in the past, I've put things in my own hands, and it does work out, but like, at what cost? Like, you lose your peace in the process more times than not.